Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting of the City of Lenoir for Tuesday, April the 21st, 2026. We welcome you here this evening. Thank you for the turnout that's here tonight with us to join us for the meeting. As we normally do, in a few minutes, we'll have our moment of silence and our Pledge of Allegiance to our country. We wish everybody a wonderful day. It's been a beautiful few days, a little cool. We're kind of stalling for a minute. Our attorney's coming in the door. I always like to have him here. Welcome, sir. So anyway, at this moment, we'll please rise with us for our moment of silence. We'll remain standing for our pledge. Thank you. Please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight we have several special recognitions that we will do first in our meeting. The first one tonight is a proclamation we're presenting to our Director of Public Works, Mr. John Hogan, is proclaiming April 24th, 2026 as Arbor Day throughout the City of Lenoir. Very special. John is quite an arborist, and our Public Works Department does such a great job of planning and keeping things looking so well. So I will read this, and then I'll present it to John in just a minute. Proclamation in honor of Arbor Day 2026, whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, as the mayor of the City of Lenoir, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2026 as Arbor Day in the City of Lenoir, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support the efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And furthermore, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. This is the 21st day of April 2026. John, if you'll join me up at the podium, we'll present this, let you speak, and then we'll do a picture with the council after we do the other. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll be really quick. Thank you for giving us tree nerds a minute to nerd out about trees. Again, we talk a lot about infrastructure. We talk about water, sewer, stormwater, all that as part of our environmental management infrastructure. But we oftentimes forget about trees and their role in environmental management. So obviously, trees, they clean our air, they clean our water, moderate our temperatures, and help manage stormwater runoff and improve the economy and health of the people in our communities. If you recall, in 2023, we partnered with the North Carolina Forestry Service and Western Piedmont Council of Governments to provide us with a a tree canopy assessment of the City of Lenoir. And I'll be real brief just with some of the numbers and some of the numbers from the findings. So the tree cover currently for the City of Lenoir is 53%, which is pretty good considering the state average is 47%. So we're doing pretty good at managing our current tree canopy in the City of Lenoir. The City of Lenoir's tree canopy provides a total of $2,452,931 in environmental benefits annually. As far as air quality goes, that's 193 tons of pollution removed annually for an annual benefit of $518,000. Stormwater reduction, 36 million gallons of runoff prevented annually. Carbon sequestration, 9,455 tons of carbon sequestered annually. And Lenoir's urban forest stores a total of 260,659 tons of carbon. So those are just a few numbers based on studies done, across the state of 40 other communities. Our possible plantable area is about 25%. The state average is 23%. And impervious surface, Lenoir is about 20%, and the state average is about 22%. So again, our reason for celebrating Arbor Day is to celebrate trees, but also just to acknowledge our commitment to our trees and our urban spaces. As much as it is our job to manage the fiscal aspects of the city, it's also important for us to manage the land and our trees and our parks and those areas. So again, thank you for allowing us to nerd out over trees a little bit.
Thank you. Certainly appreciate the job that our Public Works Department and all your staff do.
You want to introduce your folks?
Introduce those gentlemen, if you will, to everybody.
So we've got Jeff Holland, who is our Parks and Public Properties Superintendent, and then Marky Townsend, who is our Horticultural Specialist for the city. So these are the guys that are out there, pruning, mulching, watering, fertilizing, and taking care of the trees. So appreciate them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do a picture in just a few minutes. Thank you. Our next special recognition tonight is on behalf of the council, is for a proclamation to our City of Lenoir Police Chief, Andy Wilson. Chief Wilson will be claiming the month of May 2026 as Motorcycle Safety Month throughout the City of Lenoir. So this is a proclamation, Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month, May of 2026. Whereas the growth in popularity of motorcycle riding and touring, combined with the many scenic destinations in our state and the year-long riding season, have led to North Carolina having one of the largest populations of motorcycle enthusiasts in the nation. And whereas more and more residents of the City of Lenoir are taking up this mode of transportation to commute to and from their places of employment. And whereas many motorcyclists undergo specialized training by attending professionally taught motorcycle operator training courses with emphasis on skills, traffic laws, and proper safety equipment. And whereas it is the responsibility of all motorists to be aware of motorcyclists and extend to them the same courtesy as any other vehicles on our roadways. Now therefore be it resolved that I, as mayor of the City of Lenoir, and on behalf of the Lenoir City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of May as Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month throughout the City of Lenoir. Witness my hand and seal this the 21st day of April 2026. Chief, I'll join you at the podium. Sir. Got it? Go. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you so much for the proclamation for motorcycle safety awareness. As a past motorcycle enthusiast myself, I had the bright idea earlier I would ride a motorcycle in, try to, liven it up a little bit, but I thought the manager may not like that, so I didn't do that. But as everyone knows, Western North Carolina is a draw for people, for motorcyclists. They love the winding roads, the scenic environment, the Blue Ridge Parkway, and so much more that this area offers. So we have a big influx of motorcyclists during the months of May, June, and really August, September. And so with that, I'll give you some real quick stats to talk about why safety is so important. So for Caldwell County alone, we have approximately 46 to 47 motorcycle crashes every year. 38 to 45 of those motorcycle crashes result in injuries. So those motorcycle crashes have around an 85% injury rate for obvious reasons, right? They're not protected by airbags, by seat belts, by all those safety mechanisms. And we average over a 5-year average about 1 fatality a year. Some years have been just a little bit higher with 2 or 3. We have been fortunate not have 0 about 1 year, but we do have them. And so in North Carolina, a crash happens every few hours during those peak times when either the leaves are starting to change or the temperatures begin to warm up. But as the proclamation said, it's everyone's responsibility. We have to look out for the motorcycles on the roadway. The motorcycles need to be looking out for other motorists on the roadway. We all see the signs that say "Look twice," and that's very important, especially this time of year. Pull up to the intersection. Take a second look. A motorcycle could be coming around a curve, over a hill, or even in a straightaway. Sometimes they're just a little hard to see. But also, the proclamation talked about it's the responsibility to share the roadway, and it is. They have just as much right to the roadway as vehicular traffic, and so this is a very important proclamation just to obviously talk about the awareness of motorcycle safety. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
And our last recognition tonight, we'll present a proclamation to our City of Lenoir Fire Chief, Norman Staines, proclaiming May 4th, 2026 as International Firefighters Day throughout the City of Lenoir. May the 4th be with you. All right, this proclamation in honor of International Firefighters Day. Whereas International Firefighters Day is observed each year on May 4th to honor and remember past firefighters who have lost their lives while serving their communities, to express gratitude to those that have served in this line of work, and to show support and appreciation for those who presently serve. And whereas, regardless of the language a firefighter speaks or the country in which he or she works and resides, all firefighters fight against the same enemy, fire. And whereas firefighters follow a long line of tradition and honor that inspires them to help colleagues, neighbors, and strangers alike. And whereas the demands of firefighting are accompanied by both personal and physical tolls that all firefighters knowingly accept while risking their lives to protect the lives of others. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, as Mayor of the City of Lenoir, North Carolina, and on behalf of the Lenoir City Council, I do hereby proclaim Monday, May the 4th, 2026 as International Firefighters Day throughout the City of Lenoir, and encourage all citizens to show support and appreciation to our city, our county, and state firefighters who protect our lives and property so diligently throughout the year, and by remembering past firefighters who dedicated their lives to preserve our safety. This is the 21st day of April, 2026. Chief? Thank you.
I don't know if I trust you. So first of all, thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving this opportunity to get up. And usually I take this opportunity to brag on my staff, or our staff, and what they do to protect the citizens of Lenoir. Sometimes it's lost staff work 24/48, which that means they come in, stay 24 hours, and are gone for 48, which basically means instead of a 2,080-hour full-time job, they work about 2,900 hours a year. So sometimes that's lost when we look at what they do. So in that, last year they responded to 3,253 calls for service. And when you look at those calls, we start looking at response time. Almost 98% of those had a less than 4-minute response time from the time our tones were activated, we were on the scene. And that, that takes into where you live. So some are shorter, some are longer. But overall, 98% were right at the 4-minute mark. Last year, we documented 16,843 training hours. So they spent a lot of time in the classroom training or out on the training ground, learning skills to keep themselves safe and protect our citizens. They participate in 44 public education classes to a little over 5,500 citizens. So again, that's where their opportunity to give back. Installed 59 smoke detectors free to the citizens of Lenoir. Again, those were all received on the grants. So installed those. If anybody needs a smoke detector, feel free to reach out to the station and they can schedule to come install. The Fire Marshal's Office completed 875 fire inspections on businesses and industries inside the city. And then the point another one to be proud of is last year on the calls that we had structural or content damage, we did protect over $41 million worth of property that we saved. So that's something, again, that we're proud of. And with that, I say thank you.
Come on up, guys. You want to do the council down here?
No, they can just come in back.
Come up behind back here.
Get up there.
See everybody?
Yeah, I got it. 1, 2, 3, cheese. 1, 2, 3, cheese.
Thank you all. Thank y'all.
Well, y'all stay there.
Stay in the stereo, we got 2 more. Chief.
Got to change positions, right? No.
We could play here, get your motor running. That's the truth. I thought you were coming with the fire department.
That's right.
All right. 1, 2, 3, cheese. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Thank you.
One more, Public Works. Saw the tree? It's not made of paper though.
You spelled Lenore wrong.
Don't even say.
Just kidding.
It was like, yeah.
Let's see. Rebecca, will you go that way some to your, yeah, that way a little bit more. Then Ralph a little bit, and then Chrissy a little bit. There we go. All right, Marky, hold your head up just a little. All right. Where's the International Firefighter Day, man?
Proclamation.
Jonathan, come to your right. Scoot it. All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Thank y'all.
All right, that's it.
Where you gonna put that? Oh, okay. Let me see if his chair was hold up this time. Thank you, guys. We appreciate all that. Great recognitions tonight. We thank all of our staff and all you guys with what you do. Great service to our community, to our city. All right, we'll move into tonight. We have a matter scheduled for public hearing. This is a R1-26 conditional zoning ordinance number 13, CZ13. The applicant, Connolly Development LLC, is requesting to rezone the subject property, land located on Seahorn Street between the intersection with US 321 and Robinwood Circle to a conditional zoning district, that's CZ13, from B6 traditional business and R15 single-family housing to allow for a medium-density multifamily housing units, 68 units apartments. So I will open the public hearing, and I first will introduce our planning director, Hannah Williams, for her report.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and to everyone here tonight. Many of you have been engaged with this apartment proposal over the last couple of months and 2 planning board meetings, and I appreciate the time and thought that you have put into it. Any change near an established neighborhood brings real questions and concerns, and we have taken those seriously. The planning board and staff's role is to apply the city's adopted plans and ensure that growth happens responsibly. With conditional zoning, we're able to tailor conditions specifically to this site, an option that wasn't available when a similar apartment complex was proposed in 2012. And we are able to focus on compatibility and mitigation where it matters most. For example, some of the traffic concerns expressed by the community resulted in planning board adding a condition to extend the sidewalk. I'll keep my comments brief tonight and walk through the key points. But I wanted to begin by acknowledging your continued involvement and the importance of this conversation in shaping good development. So I've got a few slides for y'all tonight. We're talking about 938 Seahorn Street. The subject property has 2 parcels with a total of 7.3 acres. 1 parcel is currently zoned B6 and 1 is R15. Connolly Development has proposed to rezone it to conditional zoning CZ13 to allow for medium-density apartment complex. The CZ would allow for 10 dwelling units per acre, 45-foot building setback abutting other single-family zones and uses, and a 30-foot wide planted buffer abutting single-family zones and uses. Here's a map of the surrounding area. As you can see, these are the 2 parcels. It's right next to an Exxon gas station, right behind the Comfort Inn, 0.2 of a mile from a signalized intersection with 321, abutting multifamily to the north, an assisted living place to the north, and single-family neighborhood, Lower Creek Drive, or Lower Creek neighborhood to the east. Here's the applicant submitted site plan. Building 1 would have 24 units, Building 2 would have 24 units, Building 3 would have 8 units, and Building 4 would have 12 units. There would be a detention pond on the western side of the property. There would be 2 playgrounds and a covered picnic area, leasing office and clubhouse, and the entire site would need to meet design standards that the zoning ordinance applies to most commercial redevelopments. Here's a second site plan submitted by the developer showing the open space that this area, that the development will have. So 3.63 acres on the western side of the property would remain undeveloped. It would be open space for this site. So it's a 7.3 acre site. Half of it would be undeveloped under this proposal. Here's the conditional zoning ordinance conditions. The base zoning would remain B6 and R15. The ordinance would preserve the base zoning and that zoning division line right here. So, and that means that what's B6 would retain the commercial uses allowed in B6 today. What's R15 would remain R15. This conditional zoning and these conditions apply mostly or all to the apartment plan that's been proposed. It would add medium-density multifamily housing at 10 dwelling units per acre as a condition. The setbacks I already went over, 45-foot building setback from all single-family zones. The planted buffer, there would be a planted buffer that's 30 feet wide, which is double what is normally allowed. Sorry, I lost my place, y'all. Yeah, usually when multifamily abuts single family, a 15-foot wide buffer of 2 staggered rows of trees and shrubs is required. In this case, a 30-foot wide planted buffer with 4 rows of trees would be required along the property lines that abut a single family zone. And like I discussed in the previous site plan, the complex would be subject to our design standards like many of the redeveloped sites along 321 and in other commercial areas of Lenoir. The conditional zoning ordinance would also restrict access onto Fair Lane and Robinwood Circle, so no driveways would be allowed on those roads at all. The access would only be from Seahorn. And the planning board adopted an additional condition, the sidewalk. Sidewalk is already required along this development's frontage on Seahorn Street. Planning board added a condition to extend the sidewalk all the way to the intersection of Seahorn and 321. So it would cross over the right-of-way that touches the gas station, and it would connect with a signalized pedestrian crosswalk to get across 321 towards Walmart and to get south towards the hotel. Phasing, all amenities would need to be built out before occupancy. So sometimes apartments lease out as soon as the first residential building is complete. In this case, before the building was occupied, all of the amenities would need to be built. The sidewalk, the landscaping, the buffers, the playgrounds, all of those things would need to be complete before anyone lived on this site. And here's the site plan enlarged a bit, just for our reference if we need it later. I also want to address the uses that are allowed today, or the residential uses that are allowed today. The B6 parcel could have 20 low-density apartments today by right, and then with a special use permit, they could have 25. The R15 parcel would not allow for apartments at all, but possibly 10 to 13 houses could go on that 4.5 acre parcel. I also want to compare this to some similar uses. Recently, council approved a rezoning off of 321 to allow for apartments on a tract adjacent to an established single-family neighborhood. The Palisades of Lenoir at 2115 Hickory Boulevard. This was a standard rezoning from a split-zoned parcel to B2 with no special conditions, no increased buffers, or increased building setback. Here's the site plan for that development. The site plan proposes just over 12 units per acre with a total of 220 units. The site plan has similar distances to the R15 zoning district to the rear yards of Lakeside Terrace neighborhood. So this building number 2, it's about 90 feet from the rear yard of a home on Lakeside Terrace. Building 3 is about 80 feet from the rear property line of a home on Lakeside Terrace. So to compare that to Seahorn, the Seahorn proposal, they're building 3 right here. It's about 90 feet from the rear property line of Robinwood Circle. And then building 4 over here, it's about 200 feet from a rear property line on Fairlane Drive. I know it's not a perfect comparison. The lots on Robinwood Circle are around 150 feet deep, and the lots on Lakeside Terrace were around 200 feet deep. But the distance of apartments to an R15 neighborhood are similar. Now I'm going to discuss the traffic. I'm not a traffic engineer and I'm not a transportation planner, but this is some data that I've been able to glean from NCDOT and our transportation group at the COG. The average annual daily trip count from NCDOT in 2025 for Seahorn Street was around 2,195 trips. The trip count has been in decline over the last 5 years. In 2021, it was around 2,444 trips. 68 Seahorn, or the 68 apartment units is estimated to generate 448 trips, and so that would generate approximately 20% more trips than the current daily trip count. However, this increase is not close to the capacity of Seahorn Street. DOT estimates that Seahorn's roadway capacity is around 4,300 trips per day without making improvements to the road or without changing the signal at the intersection. If the vehicles per day on Seahorn increases by 20% to 2,643 trips, that's still way below the operational capacity of the street. The B6 parcel on the subject property, it has commercial land entitlements today. A restaurant, medical, dental office, light retail, business and personal service, studio and specialty school, and veterinarians would all be allowed to locate there today. The site is large enough that more than one of these uses could locate on the property and generate more trips on Seahorn Street. So we took a couple of those uses, medical, retail store, and restaurant, just to see what an average sized use, what kind of trips those would generate on Seahorn. Medical office would generate around 170 trips per day. A retail store, 420 trips per day. A restaurant could generate around 296 trips per day. And all of those would be allowed today without any council additional approval. And the site is 3 acres, or the B6 property is 3 acres, and all 3 of those uses could locate on that site. It's feasible. Not saying that that would happen, but it is feasible. And our comprehensive plan has goals that involve housing. And like I said earlier, staff and planning board applies the city's comprehensive plan to projects to ensure that goals are being met. This project, this apartment proposal, it directly supports 4 of the stated goals in the comprehensive plan: to build and promote community pride through redevelopment of underutilized property, enhance livability by supporting sustainable growth and protecting existing neighborhoods by ensuring adequate infrastructure, expanding housing options by encouraging a variety of housing types, including multifamily, and facilitating infill development, and improving mobility and connectivity by expanding sidewalk network and providing safe roadway crossings. This brings me to the end of the presentation, and I appreciate council's engagement and the community's participation throughout this process. Change is never simple, but with the clear standards, strong buffers, and good design, we believe this proposal can offer needed housing while maintaining compatibility with its surroundings. Planning Board recommends approval of the request as presented tonight based on the following consistency statement. The proposed conditional zoning ordinance is consistent with the 2045 comprehensive plan because it specifically addresses the 3 most significant priorities for the future of housing development in Lenoir, which are affordable housing, new housing developments, and good quality of life. While the future land use map identifies this property as mixed use and single family, the proposed development on the subject property would revitalize a vacant site and effectively provide homes for upwards of 150 residents. The development proposed also subscribes to multiple components of good design, including efficient land use in the form of medium-density development, reducing urban sprawl, transportation and connectivity with immediate access to 321, and community spaces including clubhouse, multiple playgrounds, and common areas. This site is explicitly mentioned in the 2025 Caldwell County Housing Plan, which encourages thoughtful and attainable development, connecting residents to local job opportunities and access to community resources. The city continues to make intentional efforts to support effective developments for the greater Lenoir community. So that concludes my prepared comments, and I am also available for questions if you have any of me. The developer is also here tonight, and he has some prepared comments as well.
Any questions, Hannah, concerning?
So my first question is, and I think I know the answer, but for the benefit of everybody, the signals at the intersections of Seahorn to 321, there's 2 of them, one at Cookout, one at the Walmart entrance. Those signals are not independently controlled by the City of Lenoir, is that correct? Those are controlled by the state?
I may have to defer. City manager's nodding.
John said yes.
John, yeah.
Okay.
So they are
Planning.
they're
Public
controlled
Works
by
is
the
saying
state,
yes.
not by the City of Lenoir. Okay.
I assumed so, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was right about that. Okay, thank you.
And I will say, technically, the Cookout intersection is Hospital Avenue, just for the record.
Sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
In addition to Mr. Bill's question, saying that the state controlled the 321 part of the light, but coming out of Seahorn and coming out of there, how will those be adjusted to accommodate the traffic coming out? Because the state is longer and that causes traffic to back up. So how are you gonna control?
Yeah, I will go back to this level of service. The state says that the average level of service is called level of service D, and that's how they kind of figure out what the trips per day would be. And I didn't get all the way into it here, but Seahorn, we would call that rolling terrain, and it's a road that has low share of green, which is what this second tier is. Instead of typical share of green, a road on a rolling terrain would have 9,100 trips per day. But the rolling terrain with low share of green has 4,300, a lot less. But it's still higher than what Seahorn sees today, and it's still higher than what Seahorn would see with this increase in trips. Does that make sense? I had to read it like 3 times.
That's good.
Okay.
I think you mentioned the current zoning as it is. There's more types of development that could happen that could be even more traffic or more concerns. Is that what I heard you talk about?
Yes, that is what I was trying to indicate.
You want you want specifics of that, or?
No, I just wanted to make sure
Okay.
that's what I saw. It went quick, and I didn't see that there. But as it is currently, it would create, I mean, if someone wanted to come in now and present something to us, it could potentially be more traffic or more concerns for that particular area. Is that what you were stating?
That's true. This was a list of commercial uses that are allowed on half of the site today. And more than one of those, by my estimate, could locate on the site because it is nearly 3 acres.
And with this proposed project, then we have the buffer, but this as this B6 is, that probably would not be.
There would be a buffer that would apply on the single-family side, and it would be 15-foot wide,
But not as much as.
not as much as what's being proposed today.
Okay. Any other questions for Hannah?
And following up on Councilwoman Thomas's question, if one of those businesses wanted to locate on that property, they would not have to come to us
Yeah, that would be
because
an
it would be by right.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. By right, it would be a staff administrative review.
Yep, gotcha.
Okay.
And if they meet all those requirements, we could not stop that. So it could be more than one type of business on that parcel that we would not have any control of.
Yes,
As it is currently.
right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
I'm going to turn it over to the applicant, and I think he has some slides. I'll just go ahead and.
All right. We'll now hear from the developers, if that's okay. And please give us your name. We don't want probably, but give us your name and address for our records, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Appreciate your time tonight. My name is Field Goodlett with Conley Builders and Development. I live at 119 Tanglewood Drive in Lexington, South Carolina.
Okay.
And I'm Andy Rosen, 812 Berkeley Street in Durham.
Thank you.
Let me start this and I'll start talking.
All right.
So we've got a 68-unit multifamily apartment development at 938 Seahorn. Conley is a family-owned business, been in existence for about 30 years out west in South Carolina. Field here is the son-in-law of the president of the company and maybe the president himself one day. We've developed about 5,000 apartments in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and we're both a developer and a contractor, and built one of the biggest, workforce affordable housing firms in the Carolinas, with over 5,000 apartments. We've done new construction, renovation, historic. We've done a variety of different types of apartment development.
Yeah, appreciate that, Andy. Yeah, so Conley Builders and Development, we're kind of a unique developer in the fact that we have both the development company under one roof, but we also have the general contracting company underneath one roof. So we're essentially kind of a one-stop shop. Andy and I's job is to go out, find sites, put the budget together, and get the development done, and then we will pass it across the hall to our construction team, and then we will come out and execute and build it. And then it kind of flips back to the development team after that, and we'll own and operate the property for a term of somewhere around 18 to 20 years. So we've got our hands on this thing from start to finish over a long lifespan of the property. And currently, right now, we own approximately somewhere around 50 apartment complexes between North and South Carolina. The majority of our portfolio is in South Carolina. That's where we're based, where we're originally from. But in North Carolina, we partnered with Andy on, I think, about 9 or 10 apartment complexes throughout North Carolina.
Okay, so we'll go back for it, it's fine. As I mentioned, it's 68 apartments, 4 residential buildings, it's a clubhouse. 3 of the buildings are 3-story, 1 is a 2-story building. It's a garden-style walk-up building, hardy plank and brick exterior. We will meet the design guidelines that the city has imposed. We've already talked with them about a few matters which we've adjusted on our plans. Lots of outdoor space for the residents, sitting areas, playgrounds, tot lots, picnic areas. We will set aside 10% of the units for handicapped individuals, and the entire property will be ADA compliant. As Hannah mentioned, the city is imposing some very restrictive landscape buffers and setbacks for this development. I believe that the much more intense than any other apartment development in the city, and we've agreed to those terms. Rents from about $500 to $1,100 a unit. We're serving kind of the what I would consider maybe middle income folks, people making between maybe $30,000 to $60,000. That's kind of the range of the targeting that we're doing for the residents, up to 60% of the AMI. So that really is healthcare, hospitality workers, maybe some initial school teachers, things like that, who will be the clientele for the apartment complexes. It's a significant financial development. It's about a $20 million project that will pay, property taxes on an annual basis, significant, fees, and we think it'll help the entire community in terms of, from financial perspective, residents will take advantage of more restaurants, goods and services in town. So it's a pretty significant investment for the city. And finally, it's going to really address a lot of the critical housing needs in the area. We've sent you, as part of your package, I believe you have the market study or part of it, which shows a pretty significant need for this type of housing, and we can talk a little bit more about that a little bit further on.
So a little bit about our management of the property. So like I mentioned, we'll own this property for somewhere roughly around 20 years. And Intermark Management, they're based out of Columbia, South Carolina. They manage our whole portfolio. We are their biggest client. So we have a very good working relationship with our management company. We go and take trips to every one of our properties every year to go and do inspections on our own. Our investors come out and do inspections annually. And North Carolina Housing comes out and does inspections annually. So these properties are constantly having their eyes put on them, constantly having maintenance and proper management done. So Intermark, they have a wealth of experience, and they manage roughly around 103 properties, totaling somewhere around 9,000 units. And then, so we have strict compliance and screening procedures. So that way we have the best residents possible on site. We will do background checks, employment history checks. They have to provide proof of income to live here. So these are truly good working individuals in the city of Lenoir. And, rental history verifications, and we have a zero tolerance policy on drugs or any crime on a background check.
So one of the big issues was the traffic issues, which we've heard about from the neighbors. They've been very consistent about that being a concern of theirs. We had a study done as well, which should be in your package. And it's a little bit, the numbers are a little bit different than Hannah's. In fact, it shows kind of less of an impact. Still 278 daily trips. I think Hannah said about 400. But again, we had a third-party analysis done by a group out of Winston-Salem, an engineering firm, who came up with those figures, and you should have that data in your package. We could talk about the concentration, I guess maybe a little bit, but one thing we was talking about, we're not developing the entire site. About half of the site is going to remain vacant. We spent a lot of time over the planning board meetings talking about the buffering, kind of hoping to explain to the residents and the neighbors the buffering and how that's going to impact their homes, because obviously we do understand it is an infill neighborhood. It does have some challenges with it. And we want to do everything we can to be as good stewards as we can of the neighborhood and be sensitive to their concerns. A lot of folks have lived there for 20, 30 years. We understand that, and we want to try and develop a parcel that's provides good housing for the citizens of Lenoir, but also recognizes that these folks have been there for a long time, and to try and be sensitive in terms of buffering and setback and placement of the buildings and things like that to minimize impact as much as we can for them. There will be a detention pond that we've talked about, handle any kind of sewer runoff, so that should be handled. We have that at all of our properties, obviously. And as Hannah said, we've talked about the buffers and setbacks, and we will meet those, which are pretty extensive.
And circling back to the traffic for just 1 second, when we were talking with our traffic analysis, they mentioned that to really even consider a turn lane and traffic modifications to that to Seahorn Street, the road typically needs about 4,000 vehicles per day in trip generation. And our development, is expected to generate less than 300 vehicles a day. And it was less than 3,000 vehicles total on Seahorn Street. I think it said about 2,600 vehicles. And another thing I wanted to mention as well is on that slide that Hannah presented about the different businesses that are currently permitted by right on site, that was based on a square footage number. So I think like one of them was 5,000 square feet and one was 10,000 square feet. On a 3.5 acre parcel, you could have several 5,000 square foot buildings. You could, a doctor's office typically is much larger than just 5,000 square feet. Typically, they're somewhere 15, 20,000 square feet. So, those traffic generations that you saw, those numbers could double, triple. So the traffic could get a lot closer to reaching that capacity of Seahorn Street with a commercial development.
And those uses, as you council member said, do not have to go before council. They're by right, some of those commercial uses. So,
and then another thing I did want to mention about stormwater runoff. This was one of the concerns that was brought up and discussed about at the planning board meeting. When we go through and engineer a development, we pay a civil engineer a good bit of money because they are much smarter than I am, much better with a computer. We now have 3D modeling CAD software that when they input the grading plan in, we can see where every drop of water that falls on that site, where it will go to. And so we have to address, you look at the pre-development conditions on site, post-development conditions on site, and right now on the pre-development conditions, there's no stormwater infrastructure anywhere on site. So all the stormwater that, all the rain and that falls on the site is just naturally flowing to the natural creek beds. We will have to handle 100% of all of the stormwater that falls on site, and we'll have to have better runoff than what was presented before. But it will have to be fully engineered, fully permitted through the North Carolina's department.
Okay, so we did a little bit more digging after our planning board meeting, and this is some more information that we did not present because it's new over the last couple of weeks. We did check with public utilities, and there is adequate water and sewer. It's available, and there's adequate capacity at the site. I believe you have a letter in your package from them regarding that. In terms of school, because there will be some increase in, obviously we will have some kids at the property. I don't know the number, I can't guess that, but there will be some. overall, about a 16.5% decrease in enrollment over the last 15 years. That's really just kind of general, it's pretty general overall. Public schools are more people going to private schools and charter schools. So it's estimated that at least in terms of the population over the last 15 years, at least it's been about a 16% decrease. And I think we've talked about the traffic kind of at length, so I don't think we need to kind of repeat that again.
Yeah. Another thing, another third-party report that we have to get done is a market study. And this just, we do a market study not only for North Carolina housing, but also to analyze, the need in the area. Are these apartments, truly needed? Will we be able to lease them up? And how long it'll take to lease it up? So we had a third-party market study completed by Bowman National Research. And they concluded that workforce and affordable housing units in the city of Lenoir, they all had 100% occupancy, and some even had a waiting list. And based on the market study and the tenants that would qualify to live in this apartment complex, there's a demand for nearly 500 units to meet the current needs in the city of Lenoir. So our development proposal at 68 units is only touching a fraction of the need that is present in the city right now. The market study folks, they also interviewed the West Piedmont Council of Governments, Caldwell County Economic Development, and the Granite Falls Planning Director. And there were discussions about whether there is or is not a need for additional affordable workforce housing in Lenoir and the surrounding cities. And the consensus from all of the groups is that yes, there is an additional need for housing in the area. And Hannah touched on this, and we will get into, we have a grading plan that was done by our engineer, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But this is, I think Hannah mentioned, we're only developing about half of the site. So you can see on the right half that we're leaving 3.6 acres that is going to be open space. Not necessarily non-disturbed, but that is open space. But a good majority of that property will remain undisturbed. We'll see that here in a few seconds on the grading plan. On the grading plan, let me see if this laser will work. So you can see these are all the natural grades of the property. Anywhere there's a blue line, this is where we're proposing some grading. Just to be able to get the site in the rear, it's almost like a mountain. It gets pretty steep in the rear. So we are kind of having to cut down a little bit into the mountain to get these buildings lower. And Andy mentioned that the whole entire site will be ADA compliant. That's so we can get the right slope across the parking lot, right slope on the sidewalks, so we can all meet ADA requirements. And individuals won't have an issue getting around the site, whether it's on a wheelchair or walking. But you can see, where the blue line stops is where we are not disturbing. So we do get a little close over here, but this is where that buffer will come in and help protect. But also there is a lot of remaining trees on the site right now. There's a lot of remaining trees that buffer all of the single family. And when we were in discussions at the planning board meeting, just because we leave the additional trees that are currently there does not mean that we get around or get away from the additional plantings that still have to happen. So not only are we going to be leaving vegetation against the current single family homes, but we're also going to be going back and adding more vegetation. So when it's all said and done, it's not like we're going down and cutting out the massive trees that are along the property line. We'll be leaving the big trees, but planting more trees in front of them to provide further screening from the neighbors. And so on this was my rudimentary attempt at kind of getting some 3D views of the site, so what we could see what the property would look like once developed. This is a view from the intersection of Seahorn and 321 is right here. The site is right across the street from a hotel. And Andy mentioned that our buildings are going to be 3-story. 3 of them will be 3-story and 1 will be 2-story. The hotel that's next door is 3 stories, and so as you can see, these buildings kind of mirror the same height as the hotel. So just giving you a little bit of perspective of where they're going to sit and what the massing of the site will look like. This is another angle from 321 in Seahorn. This is a view from Fairlane Drive. You can see some single-family homes back here. All of this vegetation will be remaining. And that building, you can see it's lower than the building down there. And that's because on the grading plan, again, we're kind of cutting down into that hill some, lowering the buildings down below. So those buildings will be below gradient of the homes up here. And this is kind of looking from Seahorn and Robinwood Circle. Again, you can see all of this vegetation that is in between the proposed development and the single family. All of that vegetation will remain, and we'll actually be planting additional plantings. And then this is just an aerial view of the site. Then I wanted to get into some pictures of some examples of developments that we built, that we currently own and operate, so you guys can get a little idea of what type of product we build. This development, now this one is a different design. This is a more urban design, but same type of product. This one is down in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm not sure if any of y'all have heard of the Bull Street District in Columbia, South Carolina. It's like pretty much one of the largest redevelopment districts in the Southeast. This is Midtown at Bull Street. There are 90 units total here, and this is on about 1.5 acres. This is 72 units in the big building, and then in the rear we transitioned it to 18 townhouse units. This is an example of, this is more so what the development along Seahorn, what the buildings will look like. This development is in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's called Lawson's Ridge. It's 228 units. But this is what an example of a 3-story garden walk-up building will look like. Then this one, this is Pintail Point. This is down in Beaufort, South Carolina. This property is beautiful. The units on the end actually have a view of the marsh. But this development, this was white hardy plank siding, kind of a gray brick on the downstairs, and this development turned out beautiful. And this one was 84 units on about 4 acres. Then that brings us back to our site plan. Again, we're proposing 68 units on, I believe, a little over 7 acres. Some of the examples I've shown you before, you can fit a whole lot more units on a much smaller acreage. We wanted to try and have an emphasis on here of fitting in with the uses that are surrounding the site. We really think that this is a fantastic location for an apartment complex. I know we've harped on traffic a lot, but with the connectivity to 321, Walmart right across the street, a gas station on the corner, a hotel, right across the street, commercial development and residential development, they're all kind of blending together and meshing together in this one area because it's this big intersection by 321. But what a fantastic location for an apartment complex for residents to be able to, if a family only has one car, the mom or the husband, they could still walk over to Walmart and get their groceries for the night. They could go walk to the gas station and get a drink.
It's a busy road to cross. I would say also that, there's not a lot of land of a decent size within amenities this close. There's just not a lot of land in Lenoir that meets that criteria. So that's important to recognize. Also, a lot of the sites are in floodplains, which makes development very difficult. So, basically impossible. Granted, 321 is busy, and crossing to get to Walmart may be a little bit of a challenge. But hopefully the sidewalk will help a little bit, the connectivity. And as Field said, it really is a terrific site. And we've worked really hard with the city to come up with a plan, going back and forth on things, to come up with something that we hope is favorable to you guys.
And one last thing I did want to mention is we will have an on-site manager at this property 5 days a week. We will have an on-site maintenance personnel at this property 5 days a week. We will also have a camera system that will run 24/7, recording video 24/7. It's not motion activated, so it's not going to potentially miss something. We cover every square inch of the property that is 24/7 video monitored and everything's recorded. If there ever is an incident that ever happens on the property, we will be happy to turn over footage to police department, fire department, whatever it may be. So, we're here for the long haul. We will own this property for quite some time. But we appreciate everyone's time tonight, and if you have any questions, Andy and I are available.
All right, thank you. Council, anyone have any questions?
I have a question. I saw the buffer, and I know we have residents here. The picture you showed, and there's a like the tree line. The residents' homes, are they behind that area, and will there be an entrance for this development that doesn't connect to where these residents live? I'm trying to get a visual.
No, ma'am. The only entrance to and from the site is off of Seahorn.
Right.
And it's relatively close to the 321 intersection, but, far enough back to give enough stacking room. But the only entrance is right here, and then all the single family is in the rear, and there's no entrances or accesses
Well, there will have to be one off of Seahorn for the complex.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
But-
That's what, do you see the little
Then, so
laser?
the residents that are currently using it come Seahorn and then circle back. I guess the backside is where that buffer is. Will they be able to see, will that buffer, will they still be able to see these apartments from where they are?
If you go walk up to the top of the hill, there's
You have to walk up?
quite a lot of vegetation at the rear of the site and along the side of the site. The top portion has a denser, lower kind of ground cover, but the buildings are going to be lower in grade than the adjacent homes, and we're going to be doing everything we can to minimize any visual impact.
Can you go back to the rendering that was the view from the top of the hill?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah,
This one?
that one.
Yes, sir.
That is an unrealistic rendering. I've lived in this town my whole life, and I don't think I've ever seen that many trees there, even before the old house was torn down. So that particular rendering there must be 20-year projected growth of the trees, because there's just not that many trees there.
Just
So
one more line that I know of.
This was done on Google Earth, so this was the most current, up-to-date satellite imagery of the site. So I didn't do this. This wasn't a rendering that we had our architect do or anything. But actually, if you go on Google Earth, you can import a site plan into Google Earth, and then you can set objects on the ground, and you can pull them up off the ground. But this, no sir, this is up-to-date satellite imagery.
Out of the 68 units, how many are 2-bedroom? How many are 3-bedroom? Do you have that information?
I do, if you give me just 1 second.
And also, I'd like to know how many parking spaces.
That's what I was gonna ask, parking
Yeah.
spaces.
That's on the site plan. I think it's, I want to say it's 2 spaces per unit, but I can tell you in 1 second.
Okay.
It's 137 spaces, 122 parking spaces, 15 handicap spaces. So 2 spaces per unit.
Okay.
And we will have 12 one-bedrooms, 32 two-bedrooms, and 24 three-bedrooms.
Will there be any fencing as you come in or out? Or
Will there be what?
fencing? Will there be any fencing? For
At this moment, there is no fencing proposed.
Okay.
It is something that we could definitely look at and entertain. The only fencing that we will have on site as of right now is around the retention pond, the detention pond. That way, kids and individuals don't wander down into that area, but that will be fenced off. But it will have a gate so we can get in there and maintain and mow and do any maintenance necessary.
Did you say there'd be a dog park?
No, ma'am. There'll be
I thought I heard
Top
that.
playground, sitting areas.
covered gazebo, and then there'll be the community building. It will have laundry services in it. It will have a computer facility for residents. restrooms, and then a common area meeting space with like a small kind of kitchenette for any community events that may need to happen. And that's where the same place that the property manager will work out of.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Ralph, go ahead.
Would you address the lighting for the site?
Yes, sir. So when it comes to lighting, we will work with our electrical engineer, and we will do a photometric plan of the site. So we are required to have a certain number of foot candles all across the site. So that way it's safe at night, the site's lit up. Individuals, when they come home from work, if it's in the wintertime when it's night or need to go out to their car, the parking lot is lit up. But it's a balancing act again while we hire an engineer to do it and not me. But you've got to you also got to look at the light pollution that the lights put off as well. So a lot of our lights, they're engineered to cast only down and not to have any light that casts up or to cast off the property. So we're able, again, with CAD software, we're able to drop a lantern, see if it's on a 10-foot, 20-foot pole, be able to see the radius of the light of where it scatters, and so then we design from there.
And the large building that's closest to the street, is that a 2-story or a 3-story?
So these two buildings, this is 3-story, this is 3-story. That one is 2-story, the one that's closest to the single family. And then the one in the rear is 3 stories as well. But that one is going to be a lot further below current grade right now.
Okay. Okay. I think that's all my questions right now.
Hey, you addressed a minute ago the site management there,
Yes,
5
sir.
days. One of our problems that I know some of them had here are the way they are managed. That's, I think, is something that needs to be really something that you look into and make sure that is covered. Weekends, obviously, you're saying might not. What happens there?
So on the weekends, this is actually a new system that we've been rolling out across our portfolio. But we have it's like an AI leasing agent. So if there's an issue that the residents have, they can call in, and if let's say a toilet messes up, if they call in, then it will automatically put a work ticket in the system. It gets emailed to the property manager and the maintenance personnel. And then first thing when they come in Monday morning, they've got that ticket in their inbox, and the maintenance personnel that will hop right on it.
We also, in terms of management, because this is a tax credit program, it's very highly regulated. So we have to stay in compliance. So like Field was saying earlier, there are, the agency comes out and checks the property, the investor comes out and checks the property. And if we're out of compliance in any way, if we're not keeping the property up, or if there's any issues, they come after the developer financially. So there's a lot, it's a financial incentive as well. And it's, we can all have a groundbreaking or a ribbon cutting and everyone smiles and it looks great, but it's 5-10 years from now, what it's gonna look like. And we have communities call us and say, hey, can you come back? We've got a piece of land, or we need some housing, and, we've had no problems with your property whatsoever. And so, you're only as good as your reputation, right? So we've been doing this for 30 years, and so we think we've got, good reputation. The management company has a good reputation, and we've worked in, numerous cities throughout the Carolinas.
And when those inspections come around, just to give you an idea of how detail-oriented they are, we get written up if a blind is broken. We get written up if a light bulb is missing. They test the GFCI outlets in the kitchens, in the bathrooms. It's not like just to poke your head in, oh, okay, everything looks good. No, they walk, they pick a sampling of units. They walk through all the different units. They typically pick, 2 or 3 of each bedroom type. So about 10% of the units actually, the inspectors go in, then they walk the whole exterior perimeter of the property. If a sidewalk settles and, it creates a tripping hazard, that's liability that we don't want to have. And so, that problem is fixed immediately. With us being the ones that own them for such a long time, we really do take pride in our maintenance on the properties. And to your comment about the management company, that's why we use Intermark Management, because they are so good. They manage our whole portfolios. They have all of these strict rules and compliance rules that they have to follow. Very organized documentation of paperwork. So that is why we hire Intermark and why they have our whole portfolio.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank y'all. Appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. All right, we are in the public hearing of this discussion, and I'll now open, if there's anyone who would like to address the council, please come forward, give us your name and address, and
Good evening. My name is James Bradshaw, and I live on 315 Fairlane Drive. And if you looked at that slide that has the hill, I'm on the other side of that hill. Kind of give you a perspective of where I'm at there. I do want to thank the planning board for their work and diligence in that. I do appreciate that the vote to send this proposal to the city council was not a unanimous decision in regard to that. So I do appreciate that. And do appreciate the city council and all that you're doing to help make the vision of Lenoir a desirable place to live. And I want to just breathe a minute. I know that all these folks in here want to join me in appreciation, Mayor Gibbons, for what you did in the recognition of our city works, our firemen, our policemen. All these folks are vital to the safety and the well-being and the happiness that we currently have in the city of Lenoir. So you to be commended on that. And we all in agreement in here that we want the city of Lenoir to be the best city in North Carolina, best around, a desirable place to live. And we've all got that in our heart. And irregardless, you're all our friends, our neighbors, and we love you. Okay? That's my 2 cents in that regard. I do want to say on the behalf of the arborists here, Mr. Hogan, we got the Arbor Day. It's a beautiful sign. It needs to be on a T-shirt. Sell those. But we also have Earth Day coming up here tomorrow, the 22nd of April, And I'll tell you this, 3,000 trees. If you plant 3,000 trees in your lifetime, and Arbor Day coming up, if you plant 3,000 trees in your lifetime, your carbon footprint will be reduced to 0. So trees are important. I hate to think of a world without trees, a world without plants. It gives us peace and happiness to walk in the forest, to see those things. And I'm going off script. I gave you what I had, but I just something very passionate. When you do that, and the mention of the trees over here, I have 2 acres on the top of the hill that's an old growth forest, some of the biggest trees anywhere in Lenoir. And that is a very valuable part, and it's not what we necessarily want to talk about, but it also in habitat for animals in there. There's a multitude of different things that live there, and we all enjoy that. And it's a park, if you will. So anyway, let me get back to the reason that I'm here and the reason that we are in opposition to this proposal for about 3 fundamental reasons. One being, we have a lot of apartment complexes and things in this general location, in this general area. We have Cedar Run, we have Weaver Court, Meadowwood, just right down the road, Willowbrook. We have Skyline and that senior facility there on Powell Road. All those are within just walking distance of where we're at. And to have a saturation of those types of buildings within a small geographical area may not be the best thing. If you, also in walking distance is a new Cat's Corner apartment complex off of Wilkesboro Boulevard 321. I want to compare that. Let's use that as a comparison of what we got here. That is entirely different than what we got here. That apartment complex has the single-story houses along Lower Creek Drive. Beautiful. Blends in well with the neighborhood. The three-story part of that complex is down below. You don't see or notice those. But when you drive in, they're beautiful buildings. Nice complex. Fits well with the community. The big thing here that I noticed in going up in there and looking around, you're going off a 45-mile-an-hour road, Wilkesboro Boulevard. Easy in and easy out. There's no slowing down of traffic. That's entirely different than what we've got here. And it's on a straight stretch of road. So that comparison between those two units, I want to make, and we'll go on with that in a moment. Most of you may know I was a principal in the county for 20-some years. My last tour duty was at Lower Creek Elementary School. I was there for 5-6 years. And during that time, I became friends with the Lenoir community and working with those things. But the most important thing that I was charged with as a principal in the school was the safety of my students, the safety of everybody there. Parents entrusted me in the safety of those students. I took that very seriously, as should any organization, any leadership dealing with safety is paramount. And we want to create a world, an environment, a city which all residents feel safe to do and walk and operate in. And I know the folks that we just mentioned, the city works, the firemen, the police, are all interested in the safety of the community, as well as the leadership here in the community. The leadership of the City of Lenoir is interested in developing and providing a safe environment for everyone. The proposed area there, wear other hats, but, as a biologist and as a naturalist, I could talk to some of these other areas, such as you mentioned, light pollution, noise pollution, increase in temperature due to the paving, impact on the water, the runoff, loss of wildlife due to habitat change. We've got all kinds of unique things there, which are very important to the overall health and well-being of the community and overall general good feeling that you have when you walk into a park. That would be mitigated or at least reduced in things that live at night, such as the barred owl and those animals that require a lot of, they're not going to tolerate that intrusion. But anyway, that's a sidebar. Getting back to the other two areas of most concern, and we've talked about safety, and we've mentioned various studies and statistics and all those kind of things that show the road is not at capacity. Okay. A word has a way of, the meaning of the word is defined as the way it is defined. What is capacity? I'm going to give you capacity from people, and I speak to not only myself but other people, that we've done our surveys. We've lived there. We've wrote down what's going on. We've got that in our mind. And it deals with people, not necessarily stats and cars and movement and all those kind of things. I'll give you a day on Seahorn. We've got folks that walk the road. I say walk the road because there's no sidewalk. You have to walk the road. We walk the road to get to the library. We walk the road to get to the walking park. We've got boys and girls that ride their bicycle. We got kids on skateboards. We got a gentleman that comes by on his motorized wheelchair and goes through there. We've got that going on Seahorn. Now, Seahorn is a 25-mile-an-hour zone, not a 45. The section of road is curvy where that complex is supposed to be. The most curviest section of Seahorn is right in there. And the entrance to Seahorn is only a few hundred feet from the stoplight at the Walmart. So, that being said, the amount of traffic that you're going to have going into or out of the complex, the stack distance, I guess is what you call it, the number of cars, I didn't measure the number of cars that could go from the entrance out there, but it's not that many. That's a busy road. 321, the corridor between Hickory and Boone, is a busy road, and it's going to get more busy as time goes on. That's a reality on that. The other issue is talking about sidewalks. You know, you have to be in any new construction, there have to be sidewalks in front of the building, but they're going to extend it all the way over to the Exxon station. Okay, good. And if you build a sidewalk, people are going to walk it, and they'll want to walk on over to Walmart. And if you're over at Walmart and at the new restaurant, and you're up here at the bank and Bose, you're going to be looking right over there at these buildings. People crossing that road, you'll have to have a signalized light there where they can push and stop the traffic and be able to go across. Can't cross that road safely and dodge traffic trying to run across. I see that happening all the time. We've had pedestrians hurt on this road, on 321, trying to cross. We've had pedestrians' death on this road down below. That's why we've got a Hospital Avenue signalized pedestrian crossing on that section. So if you have two signalized pedestrian crossings within that period of that distance, one at the Hospital Avenue and then one up there at Walmart, they're not synchronized. You know, you'll stop here and then go up there and stop there. The traffic is going to be impacted. Now, what you can imagine what that might look like as you go through there. But to give you an idea now how Seahorn is used, many cars turn onto Seahorn from the Walmart parking lot to miss the stoplight at Cookout and to miss Smith Crossroads. They'll turn on Seahorn to go to the library, to go to Walgreens, to go to Belk and all that, to use the back street. They also use Seahorn as a corridor to get to Highway 18 by turning on Pennell. They go down and turn left on Pennell Street, and it's a good, got down by the Presbyterian Church, on up to the walking park. They can turn right and go over to Lower Creek School, or turn left, go to High Brighton High School, and access the Wilkesboro Boulevard that way. So a lot of folks take a shortcut through Seahorn as a corridor to get to these other places. And, you know, that's what people do in regard to that. But it is a 25 mile per hour speed zone. We mentioned the bicycles, the skateboards, the people walking, all those kind of things. But it being a 25 mile zone, people can park on the road. You know, got people mowing grass, they'll park their trucks there. If you got visitors that are coming over or guests or whatever, they'll park their cars on the side of the road. And of course, people going the other way, they'll have to go around it, whatever. But it's not like a 35 or 45 mile road thoroughfare that does not allow that. So you got to look at and consider that fact. And that has anything to do with the capacity of the road. I deal a lot with capacity, carrying capacity. You're talking about the carrying capacity of the land, the maximum number that you can have. Well, I don't think we want the maximum anything when it comes to developing an area. We don't want the maximum number. We want in other words, the optimum number. What number is the best to provide the best services, the best environment, a blend of growth, a blend of numbers of people while maintaining the quality of life for everybody there. So I think that's kind of what we're at there. Keep in mind that this is a 7/10 of a mile road from the Walmart stopping light, Walmart, down to the stoplight at Walgreens. And Ms. Williams mentioned that's not technically Seahorn, but in reality it is, because Seahorn runs into, you go into Seahorn and right down into Hospital Avenue, whatever you call it, Seahorn or Hospital Avenue, it's the same road. You have to travel it, whatever you want to call it, roads be any other name. Seahorn. So the entire section, and I included that, and it includes Hospital Avenue, is 7/10 of a mile from one of those intersections to the other. And I'll tell you this, those are two of the most dangerous intersections that we have on this bypass going, or the thoroughfare going from 321 to Boone. Those two intersections are a site of numerous accidents. My wife was T-boned at the one at Cookout. All kinds of people can tell you about accidents that have happened on those sites. So to intentionally plan to add that many more vehicles into an area, we're looking at, I'm looking at the 68, you times 2 and add, 136 cars potentially. And we got 500 daily trips of those. To intentionally put that many more cars in that area is not a safe thing to be doing, considering it is so close to the stoplight there at Walmart. Now, the B6 zoning and the R15 zoning would allow for apartments. You have 25 units allotment, which would be far less impact, and a much better fit. The other area of concern outside of safety, and of course, and the other thing we mentioned is safety, what are you going to do with fire? You got firemen, fire trucks, ambulances, police, access, all of those things trying to get into a smaller area on a 25-mile-an-hour road, trying to access and all that. So there is some concern there we have about the getting our helpers, the people that make us safe and provide all that, to be able to get in there and to help when needed. The second area of concern about this is just in the nature of the buildings themselves. It's not in the type of building, apartments, whatever it is. It really doesn't make any difference what type of building it is. It is in the character and scale of the proposed buildings, which would be located along Seahorn. The setback is increased to 45 feet. 45 feet. 12 yards, maybe here to the wall, I'm guessing. It's close to 45 feet. From the road, the end of the road, to where the first building starts. Okay? That's right beside Seahorn Street. And the three-story building, give you an idea, is 40 feet tall. 40, I'll say around 40 feet tall in a structure. 3 of those buildings will be 40 feet tall, which will be seen from Highway 321. It'll be seen from the Wells Fargo Bank and Bo's place up there. You see all those things. Providing housing for a potential 150 residents. And this is directly, and this is the problem, it is directly next to well-maintained and established single-family homes, which is along Robinwood Circle. This complex would be the first, you got a neighborhood, you got the Seahorn, you got Seahorn Street. Seahorn is a neighborhood street, 25-mile-an-hour street. When you turn off of 321 to go on that street, on that neighborhood street, that is the first thing that you see. That'll be your first vision of the neighborhood of Seahorn, is those 3-story apartment buildings, or three-story buildings that you see. That's the first thing that you would see. And nothing exists in there that's even remotely similar to any of those kinds of structures. It's not our concern of the types of buildings, but it is the character and scale of the structure. Now, Ms. Williams mentioned something about the comprehensive plan and it falls within all that. Let me read, this comes directly from the comprehensive plan. And it's taken from the neighborhood compatibility section of the comprehensive plan, which was recently adopted. The project should maintain a context-sensitive design. Character, the new development should enhance and reflect the unique identity and character of the neighborhood And it is essential to consider the cultural and historic context and ensure that the design resonates with the local's community sense or essence. The scale, the size, this is my thing, the size and proportion of the new structure should be harmonious with the existing buildings in the area. Matching the height, width, and general massings help maintain a coherent streetscape and protect new development from overshadowing its surroundings. End of quote. That's directly from the comprehensive plan. The proposed 3-story apartment buildings, I'll say, would certainly overshadow anything else that you see in the neighborhood, totally unlike any other structure. The reason that Cat's Corner works is because those buildings along the road up there are single-family dwellings or single-story dwellings. It looks wonderful. The 3-story buildings are below and you can't see. These things would be right along the side of the road, 45 feet from the road. It could be seen from the road, 321, across to the Walmart. That, and the character and scale, I'll go back to this, the character and scale of the building simply do not fit with the residential character of the homes that already exist. When we try to maximize the quantity of buildings, is what we're doing. We're trying to maximize the quantity of buildings, the capacity of residents, getting the most residents in these most buildings that we can make. And the scale of the building on this site will actually minimize the quality of life for everyone. Not only the current residents, but those folks that move into the neighborhood. They will be moving into an area where the quality of life is less than it is now. And if you're looking for the quality of life, to find a place that, your happy place, that where you can enjoy the trees and the vegetation and your neighbors, you know, that's the kind of thing that we all want to have. That's the place that we want to call home. So what we're doing here is trying to preserve the nature of the quality of our home, and not only for the homes of the residents that live here, but also the homes for future people that move in. It's just not this large structures that we have proposed here. And I don't think it's in the overall vision of the City of Lenoir to do so. And thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it.
Certainly appreciate that. Okay, we are still in the public hearing. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Please, I know we've had a lot of comments, and if you got the same kind of things to say, kind of tell us something different, if you will, please. We'd appreciate that, just for time's sake. But you're welcome to say whatever. We want to hear everything.
Sorry. I had all this on media, but you can paper instead.
And give, we know you, but give us your name and address. Thank you.
My name is Eddie Winkler. Live at 921 Barrington Drive, but I spent 26 years in a home I built with my wife at 248 Robinwood Circle. So directly behind the old Sagebrush Steakhouse, if you will. Council had a couple questions that I wanted to address, and then I'm not going to go through that whole presentation because Mr. Bradshaw covered about 90% of it, so that'll shorten mine dramatically. Low-density housing is what we keep hearing, and there's a loophole in this whole project to get them to low-density housing. They said they're developing half of the project, so I did a little math back there. 68 units on 3.5 acres instead of 7 comes out to about 19 units per acre. So they're using, it's kind of like saying I'm going to buy a football field and I'm going to build all these apartments on one half of it. So it is not low density, it's high density on a small space with extra land beside it. That's what they're doing. But the two things I wanted to talk about, one, Mr. Bradshaw said he is not a traffic engineer, and I think Ms. Williams said she was not a traffic engineer. I'm not either. But I did spend 31 years working with the Division of Motor Vehicles, and I do understand traffic studies. Numbers lie, and liars number, as they say. So that 4,000 number that you keep being given is not accurate. This is a city street inside the city limits of Lenoir with a 25-mile-per-hour speed zone. Section 1151 of city ordinances says that you can park on both sides of that street. So that 4,000 number they're giving you is for a 25-mile-per-hour roadway that is open. There's no parking there. So this roadway will not hold 4,000 vehicle trips per day. Everyone says cars, but there's not that many cars on it, but it's that many trips per day. Probably with that parking allowed, it's probably at capacity or over it now. That ordinance requires that you park 30 feet from an intersection. Pick a street in Lenoir, drive around. Police department does a good job, but they can't do it all the time. I had some pictures for you over in that Lower Creek Street area where cars are parked within 10 feet of the intersection. So it's almost impossible to enforce it once you allow that parking. The back side of the Cat's Corner is actually on a 35-mile-per-hour street, which does not allow parking, and they still park there. They park in the middle of Lower Creek Drive because the city had to go out and put out about $20,000 worth of stone to keep them from parking in the grass. I don't know if y'all are aware of that, but that's something that the city had to do on their own after the fact. So that handles the traffic. Avoiding high concentrations of low-income housing. That second piece of paper that I gave you was a discussion that I had with the elderly lady who chaired the planning board. She wanted to tell me that they couldn't consider the fact that these were low-income housing. That actually, there's a provision in that statute that says you're allowed to avoid high concentrations. There's some theory that says if you put a large concentration of low-income housing in one space, it diminishes the neighborhood. It actually diminishes the people who it should serve. They don't want to live there because there's too much of it. It's not diversified, if you will. There are two complexes there. If you look at that, it's on the back page of that little presentation I gave you, 11 and 12. There are 50 units at Willowbrook, 55 units at Cross Creek, and now they want to propose to put another 68. That's 173 low-income housing units on less than 20 acres in one spot in Lenoir. If we go and look at the 570 units that would be available in the city limits of Lenoir in low-income housing, that would mean you put 30% of them on one square over there of less than 20 acres. 30% of your low-income housing would be concentrated on this particular site. Mr. Bradshaw covered that the distance from there to Cat's Corner, the distance from there to Willowbrook Apartments. No, I'm sorry, that's not Willowbrook. Anyway, the other unit over on Lower Creek Drive. There are many cities who already have a zoning against this sort of thing. Winston-Salem is one of them. You have to be in the large metropolitan area of Winston-Salem. You have to be a quarter of a mile from another low-income housing tax credit project to gain approval in the city of Winston-Salem. We're a much smaller city than that. When you get to a small town like Lenoir, that really should probably be more like a mile. There are, I think it was 500 low-income housing units within 2 miles of this section. So it's putting too much in one place, and that's the reason I want to give you that general statute. It's something that the city's planning board needs to look at for future development. You know, you can't go on any street in Lenoir and put in I'm trying to think something very derogatory, adult bookstore. But you can't say you can't have one in Lenoir. That's against the law. So the planning department has to say, well, you can't have one within a distance of a church, or you can't have one within this distance of a school. And it's the same thing with these projects. You need to make sure that you disperse those by saying, yes, we'll allow you to come in here and build this, but it has to be at least a quarter mile from another project similar. Other than that, Mr. Bradshaw covered about everything else I had in that presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Field Goodlet again. I did want to respond to his comments about concentration. When you actually look at Senate Bill 810, the statute, it does allow consideration for concentration, but it doesn't define how that analysis is done. So from a planning standpoint, concentration has to be based on comparable housing types and populations. We also looked at in the City of Lenoir's zoning ordinance, and there's no definition of concentration. So the Senate bill kind of just throws this loose term out there of concentration, doesn't define what it is, puts it back on the cities to define. City of Lenoir does not have any definition of how many units are considered concentration. But concentration needs to be based on comparable housing types and populations. Otherwise, any mix of housing could be labeled concentration, which would not be a rational or defensible basis for any decision makings. So, kind of going back to some of the apartment complexes that he mentioned, we reviewed several of the nearby properties. And what the data shows is that there's not a concentration of similar housing, but a mix of different housing types that serve different populations. Cedar Run, Willowbrook, Meadowwood, Skylane, and Cross Creek. Cedar Run, Willowbrook, and Meadowwood, those are really the closest properties to where we're proposing. Those are RHS and HUD properties. Those properties have much deeper targeting, much deeper subsidy. They're financed completely different. They have a whole completely separate set of rules and regulations that they have to follow. It is not a comparable housing type to a tax credit development. They're financed totally different. They serve totally different incomes, totally different populations. So to say there's a concentration of one housing type is a false statement. Then there is several senior housing developments within the city, and most of these are over 1.5 miles away. But age-restricted communities, they don't compete or overlap with the same age of individuals that's going to live at the apartment complexes. It's not family housing. It's a totally different segment of the population than what we're proposing. Again, not concentrating the same type of housing in the same area. The closest tax credit developments, this is by driving distance, not as the crow flies, but there's only 3 tax credit properties within, or 2?
Not Arbor, it's close.
Okay. There's 2 tax credit developments within 2 miles of this property. Viridian, which is 1.6 miles away, driving distance, and Cat's Corner, I know that one's been mentioned a lot, but by driving distance, it's over 2 miles away from this site. So there's only a small number of comparable tax credit developments that exist. When you actually look at the housing stock, what's being mentioned and what we're being compared to, when you separate out the senior housing, the rural housing and HUD properties, there's very few comparable workforce housing communities that are in this area. This development is approximately serving those folks at 60% AMI. It serves for working families, teachers, healthcare workers, and it fills a gap in the market rather than duplicating the type of housing that currently exists. While the various forms of housing assistance in the area, they serve different populations. And the relevant question here is whether or not there's an overconcentration of similar housing. This is not similar housing to what currently exists. And so, while there are HUD and USDA supported properties in the broader area, They all serve different populations and serve a different segment of the community. From a planning perspective, this is actually diversification and not concentration. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do disagree with the fact that, that this is concentration in an area. The Senate bill is very vague on how concentration is defined. There's no definition in the city. I mean, 170 units within, a mile or two radius of this property. That how do you define whether or not that's concentration? But when you look at the different housing types, I don't think you can lump all of these different types of properties together. It's like just trying to lump. For that matter, you might as well lump single family and everything else into the category, and then suddenly everywhere's concentrated. So I'm here to answer any questions, but I do strongly disagree with the fact that of what this Senate bill is, what the intent of this Senate bill is, and how that applies to the situation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So.
Can I ask, before you sit down, would you explain to the council how your financing works, like you did to the family?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Is that, I'm sorry, is that a consideration in this particular case?
What's that? Say that again.
For him to, with this type of hearing and with the rezoning request, is that something that is information commonly available to us? Is that a large?
I think if he wants to share that, he can. He didn't have to.
That'd be my understanding of it.
Yeah.
It's something that you can answer if you want.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine to share it.
Okay. As long as you're that spot.
So how it works is it's a very competitive process. The North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, they put out a rule book every year that says, these are the certain counties that, this is how close you got to be to services. This is the certain counties that are going to score better. This year there was disaster money for the western North Carolina counties. So, North Carolina Housing got a lot of money to infuse into the western counties of the state. But there's a whole bunch of scoring criteria, but the biggest one that we look for in site selection is, what county do we want to be in, and the services that are nearby. Gas stations count as a service because residents can go and get snacks, they can get drinks. Walmart actually hits 3 services: a grocery store, shopping, and pharmacy. So we've got to be within these, within all of these amenities, and within close driving distance for the individual. So Andy and I, we work, we find the site selection, then we put our financing together. And how it works is we get tax credits from the federal government from, they flow down through Washington. North Carolina Housing is based on population. They have a certain number of credits they can give out each year. And so the tax credits are given to us, and we sell them to a private company. Typically, our investors recently have been Synovus Bank and Raymond James. And so what they will do is they will take the credits, and they're what's called a syndicator. They take the credit, and then they sell it to a corporation, someone that has a lot of tax liability. And so what happens is if we get $1 of tax credits, we'll sell that tax credit to the investor for maybe 80 cents on the dollar. And then they turn around and for the headache of doing all the paperwork and the partnership agreements and everything it takes to do this transaction, they go and they maybe sell that to a Walmart or to a Verizon Wireless for 82, 83 cents on the dollar. And so what it does is for the investors, they're basically prepaying their tax liability by buying these credits against their tax. But what it does for us is it infuses a lot of cash into the transaction. Cash that is frankly quite heavily regulated because you've got a Walmart or a Verizon, and these credits are claimed over. We get all the money up front to do the development because you can't build it without all the money up front. but they take those credits in equal installments over 10 years. And this is getting very technical, but so they're projecting that liability over 10 years that we're going to keep those buildings occupied, we're going to keep the cash flow on the property, and we're not going to break any of these rules, because if we do, then the credits get yanked back from us. So, then we have to go and sign personal guarantees that say, hey, we're going to do what we promised, and you're going to be able to claim this against your taxes. But in simple terms, we get credits, we sell them to an investor, and in turn, we have a binding partnership agreement with them, and then we have a lower mortgage on the property. So, we're proposing rents somewhere between $500 and $1,100 per unit. That's well below what, market rate rents would be here in town. And just like, when you go shop for a home, you compare your income versus what the mortgage is going to be. Well, when you look at the income of this property, it's going to be much lower than a market rate, and so you can't support as much debt. And so we get that cash infusion from the tax credits to, so we can carry a much lower on the property.
Just in simpler terms, the state has this plan. Caldwell County is a priority county. They are looking, the state right now is looking at projects that have had not a lot of activity in terms of getting tax credit awards. Cat's Corner was the last project that was funded in Lenoir, or in Caldwell County. That was 6 years ago. I'm sorry, that was 6 years ago. So that's why Caldwell is a priority county. It gets disaster relief funds as well. And so that's the reason why. I mean, if we get your approval, hopefully we do, we'll put together our full package to the state in mid-May. They'll let us know in August whether it's been selected or not for an award. If it is, we move forward. If not, we don't.
And since North Carolina Housing is who issues those credits to us, we have to put deed restrictions on the property for the term of 30 years that make sure that we are going to comply with the income restrictions that come with it. So, like, we can't just get this cash, do the deal with the investor, and then go and jack up the rents. They have to, we are provided with rents every year from the state of what the rents can be, and that's what the rents are. But going back to there's really three players involved here. It's us, it's either Synovus or Raymond James, and who the ultimate investor is. They're just the middleman that does all the paperwork and handles all this headache. But so now you got two or even several other players involved here, and so the investors want to make sure the property is upkept well. They want to do these inspections. So the investors have inspections annually to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. North Carolina Housing has inspections annually to make sure we're complying with all of their rules. And then, we try and go do our own inspections annually as well to make sure, A, that, we're being good stewards of the community, but B, when they come and find something that's wrong, we have the time to fix it, or we've already fixed it before they even get there. But it's a lot of rules, a lot of regulations, and a lot of compliance and compliance monitoring that we have to do on ongoing operations to make sure we comply with everything.
Okay.
If I could add one thing that's another different comment. I know one of the gentlemen mentioned, he said the quality of life is less for the people who are going to move in. I would strongly disagree with that. These people need housing, and they'll be very happy living in this apartment development. So their quality of their life is not less. It's actually a better situation for them, I would think. So I just wanted to address that, because that comment kind of struck me. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes. All right.
Oh, my watch just told me it was time to stand. If anybody else needs to stand up and stretch, do it. And someone left their glasses up here. Yeah. Okay.
I was going back again.
His daddy.
My name is Ray Sudreth. I live at 409 Caratuck Court. I've been a Lenoir resident for 47 years. 45 years of those are within a half mile of this Seahorn site. I am reluctantly here to speak for 27 households that once I got the first phone call telling me about the March 9th planning board meeting, it snowballed, and I have talked to my neighbors about this proposed zoning change, and then I have emailed and gotten emails and gotten phone calls from folks saying, make sure they know this, make sure they know that. Much of what you have a document there, and you have my name at the top. Much of what this has on it has already been presented, and I will try to skip over those parts. But all these folks, 27 households, you can see the streets that are listed there. We've mentioned Seahorn, Fair Lane, Caratuck Court, Marcel Street, Hospital Avenue, one from Meadowwood Drive and one from Ellison Place. And when I speak, again, often reluctantly, but when I speak, I usually use the whole part whole method. And it's whole, W-H-O-L-E. And with that, for instructing, you present a whole concept or a whole skill, you break it down into its component parts, and then you put it back together once you've had some practice or some instruction on it. It's called whole part whole when you're teaching an individual skill. Sometimes it's for a group activity or a team. It's called play, practice, play. And for a classroom setting, or in this case, a boardroom setting, I've heard it described this way. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So with that in mind, I'm going to tell you why my neighbors and I think the rezoning of 938 Seahorn from its current B6 and R15 to the CZ 14 or 13, did I miss it by one? Okay, is a bad fit. And in the words of some of these folks, that not only a bad fit, an unsafe fit. If you'll look there, there's 8 reasons that people brought to me. One of them was mine, and I'll discuss that one when I get to it. But increased noise, light, and wind levels. Since the site was clear-cut a few months ago, people have already noticed increases in all of those. It's already been discussed, but look at the last sentence there. The HVAC systems, the sanitary trucks emptying the dumpsters that'll be required by these, they're concerned about the noise. Water and sewer. I had people bringing me water and sewer questions. Dr. Church has kind of calmed some of the fears on that, that it's not going to be affected. 2 moms in this community were concerned about possible overcrowding of Lower Creek School. Lower Creek's considered, I know they don't take transfers because they're that full, and they were concerned that it might mean adding even more mobile units to that campus. I had residents that aren't, they're not convinced that there is this need for this housing. And they say we may be missing some of the need. They, just like it's already been done twice, they quoted the Living Lenoir 2025 comprehensive plan, 2045 comprehensive plan, the 20-year plan that the planning board told me they worked so hard on, and it is a professional-looking document. But what these folks quoted to me was the emphasis on missing middle housing. That's coming straight from that document, as well as housing for seniors. And you can see they also referenced its language promoting traffic calming and improving safety in the community. Effects on wildlife, James already mentioned that. My wife misses her owls that aren't there anymore. Hearing those. Number 6. We had several folks from Fairlane, Robinwood, and one from Seahorn that was concerned that there would be no live-in manager at these sites. At the planning board meeting on the 23rd, that question was brought up, and they're there essentially till 5 or what, during the daytime. And so they're going to be leaving when all the residents, at least all the working residents, are coming back. So the quote that one person said, most of the problems won't happen from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. My concern was runoff, and Ms. Williams effectively calmed my fears on most of that. The Caratuck Court has a history of water problems. Wasn't originally handled correctly by the original developer. I'm concerned that now that those problems, after being in existence for 20-some years, now that they're handled, here we go again, we're going to make them worse. My concern would be building 4. Most of the runoff from this site will go north. It's a 40-foot drop. The elevations are in this document you have. 40-foot drop in less than 200 yards down to Willowbrook Apartments. They're evidently either have already seen an issue from it or they're anticipating it, because in the month of March, just last month, they dug a new drainage ditch. Had a backhoe in, lined it with rock. Runoff from the side hill of Building 4, and I was glad to hear you say you're responsible for every drop, because from that part of the site, it would go behind the Brookdale Assisted Living Center and between it and the upper cul-de-sac of Caratuck Court. And it's from, we're less than, by the street, by driving, we're between 5 and 6/10 of a mile from this site we're talking about. But as the crow flies, direct measurement, I learned how to measure it on Google Maps. We're less than a quarter mile. And number 8, look at number 8. 2 residents asked me to find out how to go about requesting speed humps for Seahorn Street. I think that's a pretty good idea. Big ones like on the Greenway uses on Pennell Street or Powell Road, to the 2 on Powell. All right, all of these are legitimate and valid concerns of our fellow residents, but for now, I want you to just forget about those for a minute, or put them on the back burner, because now I'm going to tell you about the most important thing to consider for this. It's all about the access or lack of access to 938 Seahorn. Of the 27 households that I contacted or contacted me, 25 of them led with traffic concerns, and I know we've beat it to death. The planning board didn't want to hear it anymore. It heard so much traffic discussion. 25 of them stated their opinions that this rezoning request, they started off by citing the concerns over traffic congestion and the inability of Seahorn Street to handle the increase.
These are my neighbors' descriptions of Seahorn Street. Narrow lanes, sharp curves, 3 site-limited intersections from side streets because they're either entering coming downhill or 1 going uphill. Shortcutting traffic, Mr. Bradshaw mentioned shortcutting traffic through the area, trying to get around the 321 lights and get over to either Highway 18 or 64 by shortcutting. There's no practical way to widen this street. The narrowest part and the curviest part is right at the corner of this property. There's no way to widen it. You can't straighten it without buying property from either the Methodist Church or Comfort Inn. And since we can't improve the street, now we're going to add these people, and there's cars for these 68 apartment units. They're not going to fit. If there was another access to 321, if the site wasn't blocked by the Exxon station on the west, the 40-foot drop down to Willowbrook Apartments and Powell Road on the north, the mountain up to Mr. Bradshaw's property line on the east, and then to the west, it's Comfort Inn and Seahorn Street. If there were another access, guys, I could see it. I mean, I could see it working. But right now, it's all about the lack of access. Again, I have a statement here about the 400 vehicle trips a day. A more pertinent statement would be how many trips can it handle in an hour or at certain types of day, because it's not going to be evenly spread out over the day. One of my neighbors is on faculty at ASU, and she talks about how hard it is to get home in the afternoon. Either trying to turn left at the intersection of Seahorn and 321, the Comfort Inn light, or fighting the traffic at on Hospital Avenue, the Cookout light, where we love our fast food, the cars spill out into the roadway irregularly, slowing down traffic. My neighbors and I think it's a bad fit, not because Conley developers can't adequately build it. I mean, they've built 55 of the things, and they still own 50 of them, and not because we're prejudiced against folks who live in apartments, as was insinuated at the last planning board meeting, and not because we don't want it developed at all. I think when Ms. Williams showed the types of businesses that could go in a B6, those veterinary offices or any of the small accounting offices, any of the small offices, their traffic would be mostly during the day, during the 8 to 5. Whereas with 68 apartment units, the majority of that traffic is going to be added in the morning hours or the evening hours, coming and going from work and school and all the other things places we're off to. One of my neighbors characterized it this way: just because we can physically fit it into the lot, the site itself, doesn't make it a good fit for the neighborhood. Thank you for listening. Thank you all for your service to our city. Does anyone have any questions for me before I? If you'll notice, I put 2 questions for the council down there on the bottom. Do we have an idea of how much tax revenue this would create for our city? And when would this decision be made? Will it be made tonight? Does it require a unanimous vote or just a majority? Those are things that I couldn't find anywhere.
A majority vote would be the answer to
Majority.
that. And tax revenue, I mean, that, we just have to see what that would be, figure that
Yeah,
hasn't been
okay.
computed or anything.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Make this very quick. I'm Brenda Walters. I live at 309 Carrituck Court. Directly, I touch this property at the very other side of the hill. One thing I just wanted to ask you as a council to consider is we had a very similar apartment project that was proposed in 2012, very similar to this. And the council that was sitting at that time voted it down. And after talking to some of the people that were serving at that time, they said one of the main concerns for them was a safety issue. And James started to touch on this. Fire, safety, EMS coming in, there is only one entrance into that piece of property, and I clocked it in my car. It's less than 1/10 of a mile from the entrance to this proposed apartments complex to the stoplight at Comfort Inn. Their concern, they said at the time, was it's such a small entrance for a property for that number of people. Anything could impede a fire truck, EMS, police from getting in and out. If a trash truck is blocking their way, if there's residents blocking their way, that was a safety concern for them at the time. And I would just like to ask you to consider that same thing, because nothing's changed with this property in this design that was also proposed in 2012.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to address comments about fire and safety on the property. Okay. Fire, all the units, every single unit will have a sprinkler system in it. So the idea and the goal is, you know, if that sprinkler system, if there's a fire that breaks, the sprinkler system should control the fire. The parking lot and the entrance will be designed to accommodate two-way traffic in and out, to accommodate fire truck turnaround, EMS turnaround. And like I mentioned about safety and security, we'll have someone there 5 days a week, you know, normal business hours, and then, you know, after hours, you know, we have, you know, the manager can be reached, the AI assistant can be reached, and the camera system will be recording 24/7. And we can share any of that camera system and data with any of the police department. So I understand the concerns, but, you know, we have a lot on our plate to make sure that we mitigate those concerns as well. Okay. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have to lower this. Hi, my name is Megan Dodd. I live on 214 Robinwood Circle, which is directly behind where, that street at least is directly behind where this is being proposed. I have several concerns. 5 days a week, I've worked in construction for 7 years now. 5 days a week is not acceptable for some issues. What if you have a flood? What if you have a water heater go out? There are some issues that you will have to have available emergency services to respond to that. I have privacy concerns for the people that do live on that side of Robinwood Street, that it's going to butt up against where this is being proposed. You're going to have 24/7 video monitoring. Is that going to impact the people that live on that street and their backyards? I'm sure there's many people that do not want that in their backyards. I know it has been beat to death, but traffic. People speed on that road. I know you're saying there could be clearance for EMS, fire truck, all that, but it's already such a curvy road and it is so narrow and people already speed on it so much. Yeah, we do need sidewalks, but if we have more foot traffic, that is an even larger risk with the people that are already speeding around those tight curves. If we increase the population here, it is going to increase the foot traffic, it is going to increase the road traffic. That is just going to further push those issues. So several concerns that I have there. But that is all. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Certainly appreciate that. Anyone else that would like to address the? Yes, sir.
My name is Derek Walters. I live at 309 Carrituck Court. Our property touches this property up at that corner, just like that. We're the corner toucher. I just want to make sure that we know what we're dealing with, because I've seen all about, when I look at rent that's $500 to $1,100 a month, and we talk about we're wanting to attract, firefighters, teachers, that kind of thing. If I were a master's degree teacher full-time in the Caldwell County schools, and my wife were a paramedic, what would we be able to rent on this property if we both worked full-time?
It's based on the maximum income.
Which is?
I believe it's around $56,000.
We would not qualify for this property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that want to address the council? All right, seeing no one, thank you all for your comments and being here. I will now close the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to the council. Discussion, recommendation, whatever you want.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have a couple questions for staff.
Go ahead.
And then I'll make some comments.
That's perfectly fine.
So Chief Staines, Chief Wilson, and Hannah, I've just got a couple questions, just for clarity. Okay. So as, Ms. Williams, sorry. As currently zoned, permitted by right, there could be, all types of businesses could be located on this property. What, is there a restriction on the height of a building that could be built currently without any change?
There is, and it is it's at 3 stories. I believe it's 35 or 40 feet.
Okay, so tomorrow, a developer could purchase this property and develop a building that is 3 stories high, or maybe even 4. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
On the B6 parcel.
Okay, so the height of the apartments as currently presented is the same or potentially shorter than a building that could be built by right the way it's already zoned. And I'll give you a second. I know that's kind of a complicated question.
Give me just a minute.
Yeah, and if you want to take a second, I can ask Chief Staines a question while you're looking, but.
Do you know what your building height is off the top of your head?
It's somewhere right around 40 feet.
Yeah.
Depends on where you measure. Sometimes building height's measured to like.
The peak or whatever, yeah, depending on the type of building, yeah.
I think it's like 35 to the middle, but then maybe like 40 or 41 to the.
Yeah, to the peak.
Depends on where.
So essentially, as currently zoned by right, a building could be, without coming to council, another building could be built on that property as currently zoned that is the same height as what is being proposed with this apartment complex. So, because I know height of the building proposed has been a concern. Okay.
Yes, and you could also add a condition that across the whole site, apartment buildings could be height restricted to 35 feet.
Okay, all right.
That's a possibility.
I'm just making the point that right now, something could be built that's the same height.
Right.
Without coming to council for any type of conditional zoning.
Yeah.
As it's currently zoned. Okay, thank you.
Can I add something?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, in addition, you had stated that if those businesses were to be added, that a medical facility could accommodate 170 cars a day, a retail facility up to 420.
Yeah.
And then a restaurant up to 296, which those totals are way more than that 130.
Right, a commercial site that was entirely built out with multiple commercial uses across 3 acres could add that amount of trips. Commercial developments do trip generation estimates by per 1,000 square foot. So we estimated a 5,000 foot medical facility like an urgent care,
Right.
or a 10,000 square foot like a Dollar General, and that's where those numbers came from.
And can I ask you something, Andy? The 50-some thousand maximum income limit, is there a stagger for the number of the family size?
It is based on family size, yeah.
Okay.
So I think the 56 unit, I think is for a family, I think it's up to 5 individuals. So let's say a husband, wife, and, 3 kids, something like that. It's about 56,000 is the rent. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, back to you, Mr. Bill, go ahead.
Yeah. Chief Wilson, just so I know, to make sure I'm clear and correct, parking on the street, is that currently allowed on Seahorn Street, parking on the side of the road?
I need to refer to ordinance. I don't have that in front of me. In our ordinance, it will list streets that are allowed and are not allowed. And so I would need to look into that ordinance to make for sure. If you'll give me just a minute.
Yeah. I'll ask Chief Staines a question. Chief Staines, I've ridden with your fire department, and I've ridden with PD, and so from my recollection, it seems like the intersection of Hospital Avenue and 321 is an intersection that's not our safest. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. And the intersection of where the Walmart intersection on Seahorn, is that in a similar category as the Cookout?
I don't think we have the instance there. I think there's more visibility. And I
Okay.
think some of our issue hospitals, you're coming off a hill
Mm-hmm.
and you lack your visibility, where Seahorn, you're pretty much level ground and flat.
So where Seahorn and Walmart, that entrance.
And even coming out of Cookout, it's almost blind because you're below grade at 321.
Yeah, okay.
So that's some of the issues you have there.
Okay. But just in general, in general terms, we understand that the Cookout intersection tends to be a little bit tougher.
We run more wrecks there, and we only run or wrecks with injuries. But so, I mean, Chief Wilson can go back to where they have more accidents. But we have
Okay.
more accidents at the Hospital Avenue side.
Okay. And I'll give, thank you. Thank you, sir. And I'll give Chief a second to take a look at that.
I think he and city manager are looking to take.
Okay.
In the meantime, I need to correct myself. It was R15 that allows a 35-foot building height. So a single-family house could be 35 feet tall. But a B6 is a 25-foot height, and 25 feet is a 2-story building.
2-story.
So I wanted to be
Okay,
clear
so
about that.
currently, as zoned, it could be up to a 2-story building, not a
Yeah.
3. Okay.
So the other side could be 35, but it was a single-family home. So I apologize for.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Some of these questions I know get kind of detailed.
Seahorn's not regulated at this time.
So Seahorn is not regulated for on-street parking?
No. The
Okay.
council has the prerogative to do that.
Okay. That would be a separate issue, though, from this one, as far as being able to do anything about it. Okay, I'm just going to make a few statements, and then I'll hush. We all should have had a bigger lunch. So I will say that the actual design of your project and the amenities and the security and the type of product that the investors are proposing, I really like the way you have created the product and what you do with the apartments. Okay, so I really like the way you have things constructed, monitored. There are some things that we probably all have some issue with at some point, but I think overall it's a very good, well laid out and thought out product. And we do need the housing. We have been talking about housing in Lenoir since I've been on council, because we have many less housing units than we have demand. And that's why we have people who live in other towns to come here to work. That's through the studies that we have seen. The council understands we really need housing, okay? Currently zoned, this property could have a business built that would create much more traffic than this proposed project. So I think we need to all understand that very clearly. Having lived in this town, and I use those streets daily. I use the intersection at Seahorn and Pennell daily, because that's how I typically go to town from my residence, a little closer to High Brighton. And as a child, I lived in that neighborhood. So I realized the difficulty with both intersections. So I completely hear that. Both of these intersections, what the city can control is ours, but the biggest issue is the signalization of those two intersections, the way straight traffic or turning traffic is dealt with. That's really the problem with the intersections, as much as the capacity of the road at Seahorn Street and then over on the hospital side as well. The actual capacity, I think, is pretty accurate. But the signals at those two intersections are really your problem, because that's why you get backed up. And sometimes coming out of Walmart, you get stuck in the middle of the intersection because somebody's trying to turn left into the gas station from the Seahorn entrance instead of hitting 321 and then taking a right. So for the residents in the audience tonight, I completely understand your problems with these intersections. And unfortunately, the City of Lenoir cannot control the signalization. We can ask, and DOT, we can ask for some changes. It takes way too long. It will never be fast enough. So I hope you understand that. I think this project is fantastic, but I am not going to, I'm going to vote against this project because of those two intersections. But I would love for this project to be in Lenoir somewhere. I'm just one vote. Council, do what you need to do. But I will vote against this, not because of the project itself, but because of the location, because of those two intersections. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to have a few comments. We get really torn as a council, because I've been on the council for a long time, just like Mr. Bill, and it is part of our comprehensive plan, and we do need housing. We need, as referred to as, don't really care for the low-income housing referral, but we need all types of housing. We work really hard. Our staff, we spend a lot of time working through our comprehensive plan, and there's pros and cons to of what we're dealing with. This project is very different than Cat's Corner. The location, it's a tight area. I work in the area. I see all the different complexities of that. I love the product. The height is a bit of a concern, and it doesn't seem like there's much wiggle room in the design to meet that particular area. We need tax credit. There was a comparison to the HUD properties and all those other pieces. I do want the community to understand, as Councilmember Bill has stated, that if this project doesn't happen, there could be another project coming that we have no control of. And we want to make sure that that's public. What could come there could create a lot more traffic. And again, we don't control the lights in that area. We don't have any control of that. We need market rate housing just as much as we need mixed-use housing, and as referred to as low-income housing. So I'm torn. I like the project. I don't know if it's harmonious with the area. I'm struggling. I'm gonna be honest. I'm struggling. I know the community, but we have to do. We have a lot of people that go in and out that work here and leave here, and we want them to live here. We want them to be our residents. And I really appreciate the work that the staff has done. They've addressed a lot of the concerns, but some of the things that kind of burden me is this the right location for this beautiful property, what we have? But it's gonna happen somewhere, so, and we have to really be prepared for that. Communities have to be prepared for that because we need the housing. So for that reason, I'm still sitting with it, but I'm really torn. But my concern is access. It's tight in there. And I've seen it back up at Cookout, my own mother was in an accident right there coming into that area. But it happens everywhere. So we're not gonna be able to dodge this situation because we need housing. We have to have it. I remember when we didn't have anybody applying for permits. And we have, businesses are moving in. We want people to live here. Even people that rent for $500 a month. And I want to really be protective of all people because I get a little sensitive when we start categorizing people. It makes it feel like, we don't want to single anybody out in that way. So, and I don't think that that's what we're doing, but we need housing for all people. I'm not sure if this is the right fit or location for this particular project.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
I would like to address that as well. For the last few years of my presence on the council, we have addressed housing and the need for housing in Lenoir, and we all know that we need that. With that in mind, I noticed some of the projects that you guys had completed in other states or in South Carolina. They were nice. However, I didn't see any residents or any communities around those projects that you completed as to what we have here. I know that we need it, and Ms. Williams, I wanted to commend you and all the staff that worked on this project, and I know that we need it. However, with that in mind, I just don't think that my mind would be satisfied or my mind would be regulated to vote for this. So my vote would be against this housing project at this time.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I won't repeat everything my fellow councilmen have said. I do have concern about the way it does not fit with the residential neighborhood. I love the project. I don't think this is the place for it. I don't think also, I recognize that development can occur under the existing zoning, but I really don't think we'll see a 3-story medical building built on that lot. I'll take my chances on that. But my vote's going to be against it also.
Comments from anybody? All right, council. Well, I think we've kind of said what you're going to say, it sounds like to me. I think I want to remind one thing about the council, and remember this, and I'm not telling you what to do or how to do it. one of our major concerns is housing, and we've talked about that at every retreat, every budget meeting. It's our number one thing, is we want housing. We finally are getting housing to come into the community. I'm not saying this is the right place, the wrong place, or whatever, but we want to continue to do that. And there are limited places that we can do it. These tax credit projects have to be located at certain areas, and that's kind of the way they are. So those things have got to be considered as we move forward. We hope whatever happens tonight, that you will consider being in Lenoir at some place. Maybe there's a different location, if it sounds like the way it's going here. But we certainly do. It's a great project, and a great looking project. Yes. And there's a lot of good things to it that we could use. And we are moving in the right direction for continuing to move toward housing. So I want the council to keep that in mind with it. So if you're through discussion, I will entertain a motion for how you see this.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we do not approve the project as presented.
Okay. I guess that's the proper terminology. We have a motion from Councilmember Beal that we deny the rezoning request as presented here. And I will ask the vote, and I think it'd be better if you raise your hand on the vote. So all in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous, 6-0. So thank you for that, and we appreciate that. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Everyone is with us tonight. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate the comments. Thank you for handling it very, very civilly and nice. We appreciate that as always. We'll be there.
Say one word in regard to that. I think I speak for all the people in our community. We certainly realize the need for housing, and we want to see that happen, and we want to see that would be a wonderful spot. But like you said, it's just not this one. But the need for housing goes on, and you know that we all support that effort, and we support you in what you're doing. And
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Certainly appreciate that. Thank y'all for being with us. We got a little bit more meeting to do, so we're going to move on. All right, we'll move into our consent agenda items tonight. This consisting of minutes of the City Council meeting of Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 as submitted. Item B, the proclamation for Arbor Day 2026. Item C, the proclamation for Motorcycle Safety Month. Item D, the proclamation for International Firefighters Day. Item E is a bid award. This is for the Veteran Plaza Paver Replacement Project Phase 2 this is Phase 2 of the Veterans Plaza Paver Replacement Project, and this includes the removal of the old engraved pavers and placement with a modern style New Holland paver. Following the review of the bid submitted, staff recommends awarding the Veterans Plaza Paver Replacement Project. It's easy to say. Phase 2, option number 1 to the Southern Lawnscapes for the total sum of $93,550. Southern Lawnscapes is the lowest responsible bidder, is appropriately licensed and adequately equipped to perform the work of this nature. And that's your items A through E of the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion or comments concerning the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve consent agenda items A through E.
Have a motion from Councilmember Perkins that we approve the consent agenda items A through E as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous. All right, we'll move on then to requests and petitions of any citizens. If there's anyone else that would like to address the council tonight, this is the time to do so on our agenda. Anyone? Thank you. All right, we will then move on. We do not have reports of our boards and commissions, so we'll move on to the report and recommendations of the city manager, Mr. Hildebrand.
Mayor, council, a couple items for information this evening. The committee of the whole will meet next Tuesday, April 28th at 8:30 a.m., third floor, City Hall. The North Carolina Main Street award ceremony and the Gibbons award ceremony will be held on Tuesday, April 28th at 5 o'clock, and that's going to be held at the Side Street Poorhouse. The Foothills Regional Airport Authority will meet on Wednesday, April 29th at noon at the airport. And as a reminder, our next meeting will be held on Monday, and that is Monday, May 4th at 6 o'clock. The change is due to the league meeting starting the next day in Raleigh. So typically we'll meet on that Tuesday the 5th, but we'll be meeting on the 4th at 6 p.m. So please make note of that. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Any questions of Mr. Hildebrand, the manager? All right. Any report from our city attorney's office?
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
I appreciate that. Thank you for being here tonight, filling in for Mr. Rohr.
Absolutely.
Let's see, I'm trying to think if I had anything out of the mayor's office. I don't think so at this time. We've got several projects and things that are going on, but I think we just talked about all the issues that'll be coming up. And we'll get some reports another time when it's not 8:30 on that. Any reports from anybody on the other council members? Any other comments? Hearing none, seeing none. If nothing else to come before us, we stand adjourned.
I'll be honest with you, I had to